I have made several renditions of peanut butter chocolate or peanut butter cup macarons before, but this one is by far my favorite, and I'm so excited for you guys to see this tutorial and hopefully try it out for yourselves. I, of course, in my home kitchen, I'm starting off with a French method meringue for my macaron shells. I've got my 804 piping tip here. I'm using Macaron chocolate brown gel food coloring. Got my room temperature egg whites. I'll stream in my regular granulated sugar to make that French meringue. Of course, if you feel more comfortable or if you prefer using the Swiss method or the Italian method for your shells, you can of course do that instead. Everything will work out just fine. This is not about the technique for your shells. This is more about the filling. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this French meringue. After I've got my sugar incorporated, I like to add in my food coloring, whether that is gel or powdered. Either way is totally fine, and continue whipping till I get a nice, stiff, strong peak there. After that, I really like to transfer my meringue to a larger, wider bowl. I find that this is a lot easier to incorporate the dry ingredients for that macaronage process. If you want, you of course can do the incorporation of the dry ingredients and the macaronage in your KitchenAid or with your mixer. If you have a hand mixer, that is fine as well. Personally, I like doing it by hand with a small batch like this, and with the French method, I just think it's easy and quick, and I really trust my own process. If I were making a larger batch, especially with the Italian meringue, I do actually like to use my KitchenAid to incorporate the meringue into the dry ingredients, but that is completely up to you what works best in your kitchen. I know I say this all the time, but with macarons, even though a lot of technique and skill and practice is required, you really do need to adjust all of these different variables to what seems to work best for you with your ingredients in your kitchen, in your climate. So if I recommend something, or if I am doing something in my kitchen, just know it may work a little bit differently for you. My technique may not be the technique that works the best for you. This is just what I do, and I think is a great starting point if you want to start making macarons in your kitchen. But again, if you do this another way, don't worry about it. That is totally fine. My way may not be the best way for you, and that is okay. If you have questions about your macarons, I do have some start to finish tutorials that show this process a little bit more in depth. And I also have some kind of troubleshooting, what happens if you over or under mix your batter or your meringue. Or you can always leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram at Maddie Brame, and I can try to help out as best as I can from wherever I am and wherever you are. All right, now that I've got my dry ingredients incorporated, finally all the ingredients are together in this bowl. As you can see, my batter is still a bit on the thick side, so I am going to now do the macaronaging, trying to deflate some of that air so I can get to the ribbon stage and have my batter flowing down from my spatula, looking kind of like a ribbon. Some people call it lava. Once I get that really nice ribbon, I'll transfer this into my piping bag with my piping tip, and I am going to just pipe regular old circles for this macaron, especially since this is a dipped macaron and I want to really focus on the filling. So I'm not doing anything, I'm not sprinkling anything on these shells. I don't have shapes, I don't have any cool textures. It's just regular old kind of boring circles, but I promise you the end result will be pretty wowish. If you are not going to dip these shells in chocolate, or if you want to do something a little bit different, if you want this to be a little bit simpler, another idea for you, you could add some chopped peanuts here. You could add some chocolate chips here. Got to be a little bit careful adding chocolate chips to the top of your macarons so they don't sink in, but but you do have a lot of options if you don't want to go with my filling or decoration route. You could also drizzle some chocolate if you don't want to go for the full dip there. After I pipe my shells, I really like to tap my trays a little bit, and then I will leave them to rest on my counter for about 15 to 25 minutes so a little skin can form. Then I'll pop them one tray at a time into my 350-degree oven for about 16 to 18 minutes. All right, now that those shells are baked, it is time to fill. I've got some mini Reese's peanut butter cups. I've got some peanut butter powder. You could use regular peanut butter, but I figured that this would be a little bit easier to incorporate and keep the texture of my buttercream. I had some vanilla Swiss meringue buttercream on hand, so I just used that and simply added in the peanut butter powder, though of course you can use whatever buttercream you like as a base. I used a relatively large piping tip. I think this is the 804, and I just piped like one ring of the buttercream, so it'd be a little bit on the higher side, but just one loop. I thought that was going to be high enough for the peanut butter cup, but it turned out to be just a little bit underneath where the peanut butter cup was. So if you are doing this, I would say either build up a little bit more buttercream by creating kind of a double swirl, maybe with a smaller size piping tip, or just use something a little bit taller, or I don't know, cut a bigger hole into your piping bag just to make sure that it goes up above the top of your peanut butter cup. If you don't want to add a full-on peanut butter cup, but you want to keep that peanut butter chocolate vibe, you could add a simple chocolate ganache onto the inside. You could put in a peanut butter chocolate ganache. I really like the addition of this kind of surprise inside and that classic Reese's peanut butter chocolate taste while elevating this to the next level with that peanut butter vanilla buttercream, and then of course the chocolate dip. You could dip the top shells in chocolate before you sandwich your macarons, but I want the chocolate to drip down the sides and be really extra decadent. So I let those shells chill in my refrigerator once they were fully put together and filled for about an hour, just to make sure that the buttercream really solidified. Then I have a bowl of dark chocolate. I melted that, added a little bit of a neutral oil like grapeseed oil, and then I'm just going to dip the top of the mac and immediately pull it out and allow that chocolate to drip down the sides. Because I wanted that drip, I didn't really shake off a lot of the chocolate, but if you don't want to have that kind of a drip, you can just shake off a bit more into the bowl while you are dipping them. Another thing I did again, so I have this dark chocolate dip, I have the peanut butter vanilla buttercream. It's still like relatively sweet. There's quite a lot of filling. Even with the dark chocolate, there's just a lot of different components of sweetness, of sugar. So I added some flaky Maldon sea salt onto the top while the chocolate was still wet and warm, just to really both bring out the chocolate flavor. Salt and chocolate tend to work really well together, and also to balance out the Reese's peanut butter cup, the sweetness from the buttercream, the kind of bittersweet from the dark chocolate, and oh my gosh, it was a great idea. I loved these macarons. Seriously, it was so delicious to have so many different layers of flavor. I think the dark chocolate and sea salt has a really kind of sophisticated, decadent flavor, but then when you bite in, you have that surprise mini Reese's inside. You have this layer of like the nostalgic, more milk chocolate, sweet peanut butter chocolate flavor, and it's a really great balance and pairing. Of course, you can play around with this too, make this recipe your own. Try different versions. Do you want to have a chocolate drizzle? Do you want to have ganache inside? Do you want to put the chocolate into the buttercream as well? There are so many ways that you could adapt this recipe. If you give this recipe a try, or if this inspires your own macarons, make sure to tag me on Instagram so I can see your final result. You can find me at Maddie Brame. All right, until next time, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.